How about your kicking game, man? How do you feel like you've improved through the off season? If you feel like you've improved.
Yeah, I think I have improved. I think I've worked on some things. I went over spring over spring break. I went and trained with a bunch of other guys, um, and worked with some other guys and worked on some things with my stance, my approach, my speed to the ball, those sorts of type of things. And then over the past however many months since spring break, I've kind of just been drilling those things that I worked on and twitched up a little bit. So overall, I think it's gotten better. Finally excited to put it to the test and get back out there and play. It feels like it's been forever, so we'll see. But yeah, overall, I think I've gotten a lot better.
So two questions. Have you started to consider what it will be like to kick in an empty stadium?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around because the past 2 years you've been kicking in front of 100,000 people. To do that and then go from nobody, especially in Beaver Stadium where you can have 70,000 people and it seems empty,
Yeah.
to having nobody in the stadium. Um, so yeah, it's going to be different for sure. With less distractions, less noise, and things like that, it's going to be a little different to adjust to. But I think personally, I'm not going to have it, try to alter any sort of my state of mind, my approach, how I approach the game itself, things like that. I still have a job to do at the end of the day. So I'm just going to try to be consistent as possible. No different than if it was a regular game with fans and everything.
I mean, is it fair to to obviously I'm making an assumption, but like, is it fair to assume that crowd and that atmosphere typically is a significant piece of kind of the psyche of doing the job that you have?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. There's certain times when you're at places, fans, like I said, distractions, noise, that plays a factor. But you do your best to tune it out, and after a certain point of time, you do tune it out, and you just control the things you can control, and trust your training and your instincts like that. But like I said, I still got a job to do. My approach, my swing, my ball speed, my ball contact, that's not going to change with or without fans. It's going to be the same thing. So, there is a little bit of a psyche thing where kind of just is going to be different. But as far as my approach, my mindset, none of that's going to be changed. It can't be changed.
Jake, I think I jumped in, and Nate was answering, or Nate, you were answering the question Nate asked, which is what I was going to ask. But do you think it potentially is an easier proposition for kickers and punters in this environment where the atmosphere is probably going to be pretty static the whole year?
Uh, I mean, maybe you could look at it like that, but I think personally, as I could speak for probably our whole team, with fans there, it's more exciting. You're getting more, you're getting more invested and involved in it with the atmosphere and the crowd. And I think that raises my level of game. When there's things on the line and there's pressure and there's fans and the whole works, everything's going on. I think that raises my level of game. I think it raises the level of the entire team as well. So it's going to be a different adjustment. But like I was telling Nate, yeah, I can't let no fans be in there, alter any sort of mindset that I have, my approach to the game itself, my approach to each kick. I can't let it alter that. I just got to go out there and be consistent as if it was a regular game.
Can you I don't know if recap is the right word, but like last year for you, how you felt like that went, versus your freshman year?
Yeah. Last year, obviously, I was more consistent than my freshman year, and I think that accredited it to just me being here another year, working things out that off season from my freshman year to my sophomore year. I thought I grew a lot. I worked on a lot of things mentally, physically, my approach and everything like that. But yeah, last year I felt was very strong. I felt very confident each and every game, each and every time I went out there. Um, but yeah, overall, last year was very successful. It's a good year to build on, taking it into this year. So yeah, that was definitely a confidence booster. And I think it kind of set the stage for this year.
Jake, how different was your freshman year as a kicker than in high school, where you're playing other positions, where you're focusing on some other things? To be a full-time kicker as a freshman, how was that different to you?
Yeah, it was a lot different because personally, in high school, I kicked. I'd always had it, but my first ever game that I kicked in fully was my first game of senior year of high school. So going from that, kicking in that, and playing other positions and things like that, from going to having that be your full-time job, it allows you to focus on the job more itself. Be more locked in, be more attentive to your job and practice, workouts, games, certainly things like that. It allowed me to focus more on my role, which helped a lot. And I think that helped me, clean a lot of things up within my kicking game when I just focused on that.
Jake, I had an interview with Coach Lorig in I don't know, May or June, doesn't matter. But I was kind of being silly asking about whether or not there's like a hard and fast rule on the field goal attempts. And I was like, oh, from 32, like what if it's on the 32 and a half yard line or so, and he was like 32 and a half and out is Jordan, 32 and in is Jake. Is there a comfort level to knowing that like that's their strategy? You know what I mean? Like that there won't be a question based on the moment in the game.
There I wouldn't say comfort. I would say there's an understanding, knowing that if we're not even getting close to that range, then my whole approach is going to be different. Once we start getting into that range, then I start thinking, okay, get your leg loose, start kicking into the net, getting ready, things like that, going up and checking, what down is it, where we're at on the field, things like that. But comfort wise, no. I think it sets a precedent on when I need to do something and what I need to do exactly. But comfort wise, no. I think I just, whenever we get to that spot on the field, I need to be ready no matter what. And if we don't get to that spot on the field, I need to make sure whoever is in or whatever's going on to be there to support too.
Would you prefer, and I don't know, maybe it sounds like from the coaching staff, like they've always said that it's just this constantly evolving competition, in terms of where that line is set. I mean, would you prefer there to not even be a question, like to not put that on Jordan's plate and to let you handle all of those field goal responsibilities?
Yeah, it's certainly up to the coaches, what they feel is necessary, and how comfortable they feel. I know personally, field goals that are 32 yards or whatever the yard line is that are 32 and beyond. I'm capable of hitting those kicks. They're 50 yarders, things like that, 50 yards and out basically. I'm capable of hitting those, and so is Jordan, obviously, as he's shown. But yeah, obviously it's up to the coaches at the end of the day, whatever they feel comfortable. Last year it obviously worked very well. But if my number was called to, kick those field goals from 32 yards and beyond, or whatever, I feel comfortable with it. I don't just practice in practice. I don't just do kicks from 49 yards and in, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm bouncing all over the field and things like that. But yeah, ultimately at the end of the day, it's up to the coaches and what they feel.
Jake, how many different holders have you worked with in the last couple of weeks, and how is Jordan kind of settled in there?
Yeah, ever since Blake left, obviously that was a question mark going into this year for me because he's been the holder the past 2 years for me, and that's a strong connection that you need to have to be successful in the field goal unit. So ever since Blake's departure, me and Jordan kind of it was kind of okay, man, like next man up mentality type of thing. So I think over the past, not just weeks, but the past months, postseason, we've gotten work and we've tried to be as consistent with that as possible. Obviously, there's other things going on like COVID where you're not able to get work as much as you thought you would. But with the circumstances presented, I thought we've gotten a lot of work in the past, weeks of practice and things like that. We've certainly got more comfortable with ourselves.
Hey, Jake, didn't mean to ask two holder questions in a row, but how does that change for the entire unit? Especially when you make the change and Jordan, your holder is now kicking the long field goals. I mean, how does that change everything, I guess, for the entire special teams unit?
Yeah, obviously there's more moving parts, but right now, we're still working through some things. Nothing's set yet, but we're still working through some things on who's gonna do certain jobs. But right now it's just about getting reps in and trying to feel as comfortable as possible before we put ourselves out there in those situations. So right now, yeah, we're just kind of working through some things, getting comfortable with those different moving parts, and we'll see how it plays out.
Jake, from 30,000 feet, has COVID changed the dynamics of the team? Like, has it brought you guys closer together, or is it pretty par for the course?
Yeah, I think as a team, we've been close all along. COVID, obviously, it's difficult. It makes things more difficult for sure. But I think as a team, chemistry wise, things of that nature, I think it hasn't altered the course of our chemistry or things like that. Um, it's nice to finally be able to be back and practice and having workouts and things like that consistently as a team. And I think everybody's excited about that and excited about the season. But a chemistry wise, and like a group, bonding sort of thing, I don't think it's altered anything. I think we've been pretty close bonded all together. But yeah, I think everybody's just excited to finally be back together, getting after it.
You guys got a new offensive coordinator. I know he wants to score touchdowns, but how's Kirk Shiraka? What's your first experience with him talking about the offense and how that will sort of affect the way that you play your game?
Yeah, Coach Shiraka, from obviously I don't work with him closely, but yeah, he's just a fiery guy. He's just very passionate about football. He's ready to put in an offense that's really ready to put up some points, and I think the whole offense, the whole team is excited about that. They're excited to finally put the offense into play and things like that and get after it. But for me, my approach that's not going to change. Whether he's going for touchdowns, whatever. Obviously, touchdowns, 7 points is better than 3. But my mindset doesn't change. Whenever my number is called, I got to go out there and be ready, no matter what the circumstances.
After 1 year with Coach Lorig, what are your reviews? How has that transition been?
Coach Lorig's been awesome. Coach Lorig is, in my opinion, the best special teams coordinator in the country. The way that he runs practices, the way that he runs his units, the team, the way that his coaching philosophy is, his morals, his values, it aligns perfectly with this team, and he's raised the level of this team significantly. Obviously, as you can tell from last year. So Coach Lorig has brought just incredible amount of value. He's done some amazing things here, and we're just excited for another year.